This is my gardening tips with Hanna. I'm all prep for gardening. I have all my bedding plants.
Like a gangster genre, so we had all these like gold chains on and everything.
Yelling in Shakespearean was just such a blast. Hi there, welcome to the Reading Queens podcast. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We're excited to be here and talk books, fandoms, random tangents, whatever else that we come up with, because this is just what it involved to, and I am here for it. Today our topic is classical literature, which I am excited about. And yeah, I'm Valia. Hello.
I'm Hanna.
I'm Joanna.
Yep, and we're going to talk about some fun stuff, so yay, let's get into it. I know, my intros are just like, I don't know what to do with them anymore. Woohoo, let's go. But anyway, how's life? Tell the listeners, let's do this.
It is May, which in BC means that everything is blooming, and it is my favorite. So like all of the trees are blooming, like the plum trees and cherry trees and apple trees are all blooming. And then I think it's because like we're getting a ton of rain this year, and there's these tiny pink flowers that pop up in people's yards and like in fields, and there's just like, I should take a picture and put it on my Instagram.
Do it.
There's just these huge like meadows of pink flowers. And then there's also, grape hyacinth, like they're like little blue flowers, and they kind of look like a bunch of grapes at the top. They're really tiny. So there's that, and then there's dandelion. So I swear everybody just has multicolored lawns, and I don't remember it being like this last year. I feel like it is magic. It's just like
sounds like magic.
all these colors. Yeah. Oh, and it's so cute. My littlest is 5, and she doesn't understand. Well, I mean, nobody, I don't feel like, really understands why everyone wants green lawns that are perfectly monogamous grass. Oh. I'm always like, what is the deal? But whenever she goes past something with dandelion, she's just like, they're so lucky. Look how many dandelions they have. And we went to the doctor's office, and they had a ton of dandelions like out front. And she's like, I know why there's a sidewalk. It's so nobody walks on the dandelions. And I was like, cute. Yes, that is true. So, just excited that it's finally spring, excited that there's flowers. It always makes me want to take lots of pictures, but I've been really busy. I just finished the second draft of my Cinderella book. Yay!
I started reading it. It's so good. Okay, carry on.
I hope it is. I'm at that very nervous stage where I need some people to finish it to make sure it worked out. But I'm excited now that that's off my plate, and I'm not allowed to write for 2 weeks because I have to wait for my feedback, so I can go frolic in the flowers and take photos in them. And that is good. Yeah.
I wish we had some flowers. Okay, we have these I don't know. I probably should know the name of these trees, but they're huge trees, and they have these yellow flowers that overtake the tree, so you barely even see
Are they like
leaves
a bush
on it.
Or a tree?
No, it's a tree.
Because not forsythia?
I don't know. I want to say maybe mesquite tree, but I'm pretty sure that's wrong. I don't know. But they're all over Arizona, and we have a huge tree in front of our house, and it's the only beautiful flower we have outside of our backyard, because we have roses and all that stuff in the backyard. But it covers my car in this yellow pollen.
Oh no.
And so I'm like, okay, I love you, but also
why are you attacking my car?
Yeah. So every time I go outside, I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going through the car wash before I show my face anywhere, because this car looks ridiculous. I washed it yesterday, but it's really, really pretty. And I did take pictures in front of it for Easter and stuff. So yeah, and it makes the ground just covered in yellow, so it looks like you have a yellow carpet outside.
Wow.
But that's it. That's the only flowers I got.
Sounds pretty though.
It does.
It is. It's just a nuisance, whatever.
We're in a major drought, and so they've told everyone they're not allowed to water the lawns more than once a week. So I think all the lawns are gonna die this summer.
I have planted clover in all my dead patches because apparently clover is way more hardy than grass, and then my lawn will still be green. We're usually fine here until mid-August, and then they tell us to stop watering and everything goes brown and hurts the children's feet. So I'm like, maybe clover.
There you go.
This is my gardening tips with Hanna. I'm all prepped for gardening. I have all my bedding plants.
I do not have a green thumb, but my son does. So
Oh, that's fun.
yeah,
And just send him out
I
there.
know.
Your oldest?
Yeah, my oldest. He loves to go in the back and like plant flowers and stuff. He's
Aw.
as soon as the ground started thawing, he's like, I gotta go take care of the dirt.
You're like,
So
somebody has
cute.
to.
Someone's taking care of it.
That's so cute.
That's adorable. Wait, didn't you guys have like planterns full of flowers at your last house?
Yeah.
Is that you?
We did.
Okay.
We don't have that
Yeah.
here. We just
Yeah.
have these little dirt patches just along the fence line in the back. And
Mhm.
we planted a bunch of like fun bushes and stuff, but then we had this major
Mhm.
heat wave and they hadn't been
Yeah,
planted
last
long
year was
enough
hard.
that it just fried them all because I mean we
Yeah.
had them for like a week and then that happened.
Right.
So
Yeah, poor
it
plants.
was crazy. Yeah, it'll be interesting to
Yeah.
see what summer does here.
It's an
Yeah.
adventure.
I mean, it's always interesting to see what summer does here. We have like a garden, right? And so we're a little, I don't know if the potatoes are coming up yet, but I'm pretty sure the zucchinis are coming up. And we're like, don't die. Please just don't die. Just don't die until you like get to where we need to get to. But yeah, summer's always interesting here. Our roses are doing great. Our rose bushes are just like overwhelmed with flowers. It's adorable. My dad keeps going out there and just chopping those off and bringing them into the house for mom, and
Aw.
then the next day we come out and there's more. I'm like, I love that when you prune you just get more roses. It makes me feel better about just cutting them all the time. But yeah, anyway, that conversation happened.
Oh, I have been really busy this last week. I'm doing a course for an online only conference.
Mhm.
And the class
Okay.
I'm teaching is all about Kindle Vella. And the cool thing about this conference is it's not like you don't like watch it at a set time. It's you get access to all of these videos and you have like a year to watch them at
Mhm.
your own pace.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool that the author that set it all up, she just wanted to make writers conferences more accessible to people because you know
Yeah.
the travel's an issue, you know, traveling, taking off work,
Mhm.
finding people to watch your children, finding time, you know, all of that she just wanted to make it
Yeah.
like more accessible. So I'm really excited about that.
Have you taught a workshop like that before?
No, this is the first time
Oh,
I've
it's your
ever
first time. That's
taught. So I'm like,
cool.
That's
oh,
very
this is a
exciting.
good way to get into it. But yeah, I think it'll be kind of cool. So if anyone's interested in writing and it's going to be very affordable too, because they don't have to pay for all of the like building or whatever,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So
What conference is it?
it's called Author Capital Conference and it's going to launch
Okay.
in June, like mid-June
Okay.
is when it'll be available. So
That's
check it out.
exciting.
Cool. I'm sure you'll do awesome at
I
it.
know. You've had some practice teaching. I mean, we've had our little
Well,
masterminds.
it's true. And
so-
honestly, it's like doing this podcast that I was like able to, because I was just recording it. I wasn't actually like
yeah.
talking to people,
Yeah.
but I was talking to people, you know? And
Yeah.
so anyway, I think
That's
I had my
exciting.
husband listen to the whole thing and he's like, it's good. So
Aw,
approves.
that's awesome.
Nice.
That's cool. Well, I'm excited because I will probably be checking it out.
You should.
so-
there's a lot of fun classes on there. They have
I'll
they
definitely
have the
look
two
at
different
that.
tracks. They have like the writing track, like the craft, and then they have like the publishing track. Mine's on the
Mhm.
publishing
Okay.
track, obviously, because it's all about
Mhm.
Kindle Vella. But
Yeah, that's cool. I like stuff like that it's not time sensitive because I love taking classes and I love learning, but traveling, like you said, is like really hard, especially like when you're trying to like redo your business, like you can't take those expenses. But having like that year or whatever to just slowly like make through, you don't have to do like everything in one week.
Right.
Like that always stresses
Yeah.
me out.
yeah, you could
I'm
like
like,
you could
I don't-
like watch a video a day or a video a week or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool. Well, congratulations
you.
on your
Thanks.
first class. That's awesome. So now let's talk about some book stuff, since
Let's do
that's what
it.
we're here for. Yeah. No, yeah, so we have done kind of like a conversation on classics before, or we've mentioned them. We obviously had a conversation about Jane Austen, because duh. It's kind of one of those we had to, right? But this is just kind of us are talking about like our favorites, our least favorites, some stuff we had on our TBR. So yeah, do you have a favorite classic?
I do.
I know
do.
Joanna has a favorite
I
classic.
feel like Joanna is like far more qualified for this conversation than me, but I'm just here for fun and you know, we'll see.
Before I found honestly Twilight, all I read
Yeah.
was classics. I mean, like I read Harry Potter, but I have an English degree, and so I had to read a ton of classics, but that's just kind of it's what I preferred for a long time, which is weird.
Mhm.
But that's what I preferred to read until I found Twilight, and then everything changed.
It happens,
it
yes.
happens.
With
I
Twilight.
still love classics. I haven't read any in a while because fantasy and my TBR for fantasy and sci-fi is like 2 miles long.
Right.
But my favorite, I know I've talked about this, is Wuthering Heights
Mhm.
by Emily Bronte, which is interesting because most people like Jane Eyre better by the other sister.
Mhm.
But I've always loved Wuthering Heights.
The other sister.
The other sister. Well,
I
one
know.
of the other sisters.
She shall not be named. No.
The more
That's
popular sister.
Yeah, it is. I always love that. Like, it found it interesting that you like Wuthering Heights better. Do you have a reason for that? Or you just like, is there like anything specific about it that you love?
Well, I love the Moors. That's just cool.
Okay,
you know?
yeah, right.
But I love. This is gonna sound really weird. I love their toxic relationship. That these two are so horrible, and they're so horrible, but they still love each other.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can see
There's
that.
hope for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that's their like one redeeming quality.
That's true. Yeah.
But I've read
see
it
that,
several
though.
times. I love the mood of it too.
I'm trying to think. I think it's still one of those books that I haven't read in English. I had this whole phase where I like really wanted to reread all the classics that I've read in English. Because I read them in Russian. Sorry, I should have prefaced that.
Right.
I'm like, to read them in English. And Wuthering Heights, I remember that it was almost assigned in school, and then they chose something else. And so I just never.
So you feel
got to
robbed?
it. Yeah, a little bit. Thanks a lot, high school. No. But I think like I started it a couple of times, but you have to be really in the mood to read that one.
You do.
You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't reread it in English yet.
Yeah.
My bad.
Maybe it'd be a good like audiobook choice.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
If I found like a really good narrator.
Good narrator.
Yeah, because I feel like with classics, when it comes to audiobooks with classics, like they have some terrible narrators. I am
There's probably
sorry
a lot of
to say
versions
that.
of some of them.
Yes.
Probably.
Yeah. But if you find like a lot of actors do classics. So maybe if I found like an actor that I liked, maybe I can get through all the English classics that way.
There you go.
Let me know how that goes. I did too.
I'm like, I can be smart and educated. But yeah, Hannah, do you have a favorite classic? Is it gonna be a Jane Austen?
Well, I have like two answers for this.
Okay.
Okay. So I would like consider Pride and Prejudice to be like one of my very favorite stories.
Okay.
And I love like every adaptation, and I have read it twice and I did enjoy it. But reading things that are older, sometimes it's a bit of a slog, and you're like, am I really having fun while you're reading it? Like kind of, and you have to kind of get into it. But I don't know if it's always considered light reading, even Jane Austen. So I'm like, I love Jane Austen, and I'm super glad I've read all her books, and but I'm gonna go with Anne of Green Gables for my favorite to just like sit and enjoy, because I reread it to my kids last year, and I was just blown away by like how beautiful the prose is. Like it's just her descriptions. It's just like a joy to read. And it's fun too, right? But so I'm like Pride and Prejudice, favorite story ever, probably. But Anne of Green Gables was really, really fun to read. And it might help that Anne of Green
Okay.
Gables isn't as old. Because I was going to say, too, like, people talk about classics sometimes. They're like, what's your favorite classic? And they're like, Lord of the Rings. And I'm like, that came out in the 40s. I don't count it. What do you guys think? I think it has to be 100 years old.
Oh,
That
that's
is
a
a
hard
hard one.
one. I don't know if I agree with that 100
Yeah, I
years
don't know
old
if I
thing
do
because I
either.
It is
think
arbitrary for me.
Yeah.
That's just what I decided. So I want to
no,
know.
I mean, yeah, I can see that because I think my mentality has always been like, oh, it has to be old. Like it has to be, written in another century or whatever, blah, blah. But I think the qualification when it comes to a classic is just a story that maybe changes the way we see something. Like Lord of the Rings, like for me, like that changed fantasy, right? Like that was a big deal. And so many books have come after that have tried to reach that level or surpass that level. And I think that qualifies Lord of the Rings as a classic because it kind of like set not an expectation, but almost maybe when it came to fantasy. Like if you're going to write a story that's like a world, like a high fantasy world, whatever, like here are your expectations. You've got like Lord of the Rings. Now I feel like Brandon Sanderson is going to be a classic.
Harry
like,
Potter probably
see-
will too.
Harry
I
Potter,
think they'll
yeah.
be classics. I just don't think they are yet. Because I think they have to stand
Okay.
the test of time before you
Okay.
know they're a classic, which means a certain amount of time has to pass.
All right, so
Even
Lord of
though,
the Rings
like,
has
there's
what,
no
like
way-
20 years
There
to
you
go?
go.
Exactly. It's like being out of copyright. There's like a date.
Okay, yeah, I
No,
guess.
this is just my theory. Because I'm like, if it doesn't, there's no way Lord of the Rings won't be considered a classic. Like, I
Yeah.
agree with you. It's like pivotal for fantasy, and it's just like beautifully written.
Mhm.
Like they're great books, but
Also really hard to read.
like you
Is
can
that is that a qualification of classic?
kind of. But like Harry Potter, you're like, well, probably they'll be considered classics, but I feel like
They're not
too
yet.
current to be a
No,
classic.
they're not
Yeah,
classics
they're not
yet. No.
Yeah, so
But I
like,
bet
when
you
does
if
it
you
become one?
asked, right, but if you ask like a 10-year-old who's reading Harry
Oh, I
Potter,
know.
they're going to be like, this is a classic.
It's from before I was born, therefore.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
No, that's a really good question because I feel like some of the classics that we like consider classics, we wouldn't really like, F. Scott Fitzgerald, right? Like he's a problematic author, right? So
Yes.
like would we really like praise his books now? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
some of the stuff that's like
If he
held
was
as
on
classic-
Twitter, would that
Yeah,
go
no.
well? I think not.
Probably not.
It would not. So I think sometimes that like for in my brain, like I'll take that into consideration. Like the
Yes.
author themselves, I'm like, okay, like I don't like okay, cool. It was published so long ago and it like made waves, but it whatever. You know what I mean? Kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Well, and like I would consider like Dune or Foundation to be classics of the sci-fi genre, but I don't
Yes.
consider them to be classics yet.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Cause like yeah, Dune was like that pivotal big
Yeah, it
deal
was huge.
thing. Yeah. I can agree with that.
And it was before I was born, so
So it counts. That's funny. I mean, I've talked about my two favorite classics on
Please
here
again.
a lot, but Persuasion by Jane Austen
so
is
beautiful.
my favorite. Yeah, it's my favorite. I've read it probably, I don't know, like 10, 12 times at this point.
Yeah.
And I relate to that book so much, and I don't even understand why. I don't have a suitor that I had to give up in my younger years. Like
Went out to
I
sea.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But I do. I relate to that story so much. Even like as a kid, I really attached myself to it, even over Pride and Prejudice. And the other one that I always talk about is And There Were None by Agatha Christie.
Oh, that's a good one.
That was like that book. I love Agatha
So do
Christie,
I.
but that book made such a huge impact on me when I was a kid. And like rereading that in English was like a whole new experience. And just like every adaptation, I just read an arc. I finished it like 2 days ago of this book that comes out. I'm going to say this summer. I might be wrong on that, but I didn't know it was an And There Were None like inspired, but it was totally And There Were None inspired, but like in our world right now. And it like centered over the influencers, like social media influencers. And I just loved it so much. And I was like, what's wrong with me? Why do I love this murder stuff so much? But it was so well done. And I think it's because I am so attached to crafting the story the way And There Were None was crafted. Because it was so smart and just like
Well, all of her
everything
books are
about
so
it.
smart.
Well, yeah. But I don't know. That would just like really just, I love it so much. One of the classics that we read in high school that I surprisingly devoured and thought about for years after was 1984.
Well, I mean, that one messes with your head.
Favorite, but
I read that one for the first time about a year ago because that was not one that was required. But because I feel like everyone keeps referring to it now with everything going on in the world, they kept referring to it, that I'm like, I've got to read this and see.
What'd you think?
Well, I hated it.
Right.
I think you're meant to.
Yes.
But now I can see all those connections, and it's kind of scary too, you know, like seeing how similar certain things are. And I don't want to get into politics right now, but
no.
But yeah.
It's true though. I remember when we were assigned it in school, we were assigned to read like 3 chapters at a time or something like that, and then come in and discuss it. Yeah, I like read that book in a day. I was like, I needed to know what happened. I need to go through all of my emotions at once. I was not going to spread this out over
sometimes
2
you're just
weeks.
like, I don't want to do this.
Just want to get it over.
Get it over with.
I should have done that.
I was like, I just want to be done.
I slogged through it because I hated it so much.
Yeah, that was one of my first dystopians, and the fact that it was so realistic, even back in 2002 when I read it, like, yeah, it stuck with me.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I read it more recently, but
yes.
But yes.
But still.
And I'm never going to read it because I don't
That's
need that
okay.
in my brain right now. We read Animal Farm in school. So I have read Orwell. But enough to be like, yes, I have a good idea. That's fine.
You're like, I'm good.
I had more fun with Shakespeare. It's all fine.
Yes.
There you go.
I love Shakespeare.
That's funny. Do you guys have a favorite Shakespeare?
Yes.
Ooh, okay. Joanna?
King Lear. I took a Shakespeare class in college. I went to BYU Hawaii for a semester, which was fun. And I took a Shakespeare class, and it was one of my favorite classes. And yeah, King Lear was my favorite. I could not tell you why.
You just enjoyed it.
I just we read Macbeth, we read Hamlet, we read King Lear, and just King Lear I just loved the most. I think it was the relationship between the king and his daughter that I just love, the whole, what's the word, evolution of that. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Hanna, what about you?
Like I said, moving into one of our other questions, I do want to read the ones I haven't read or watched them, because I have not gone through everything in Shakespeare's library. Guess my favorite. I feel like it should be very easy to guess if you know me.
Guess your favorite?
Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We've got fairies and romance, and it has a happy
That's
ending.
true.
It's pretty good.
It's a good one. I like that one.
We did, what did we do in high school? We did The Tempest, Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, and Hamlet. I probably enjoyed Romeo and Juliet the most out of those, although I did really enjoy Hamlet as well. Macbeth was a little dark for me, but it's entertaining still at the same time.
Yeah.
See how it all goes down. Yeah. I think I enjoyed The Tempest too. But yeah, I like A Midsummer Night's Dream. It's just so fun.
It is.
That makes
a fun
sense.
one.
I love it.
It's a fun one.
Okay, can you guess which one is mine? Bet you can't. No?
She's giving us the face. I'm like, give me a hint.
I'm like, it's not good. I'm probably not the one that's people talk about, but Taming of the Shrew.
I love that one too.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
That is my favorite, and I think the main reason for that is, well, first of all, it's so fun, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But second of all, I had to act out a scene from it in college, and I just yelling in Shakespearean was just
very satisfying.
Such a blast. It really was, because we had to memorize it. Well, I mean, we memorized most of it, so I got to really get into it. And I'm not you guys know, I'm not in front of people kind of a person, but let me tell you, that small class was my stage. It was so fun. I got to really get into it and really like yell at the person, and I just love it so much. And then obviously 10 Things I Hate About You is just like one of my favorite movies.
Classic
I was
movie.
gonna say I don't know if I've read or seen Taming of the Shrew, but I mean 10 Things I Hate About You was so wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I know the gist of it from that.
Yeah, there you go. So I really embodied Kat in my performance. It was great. I mean, I just love to yell at people, so it really spoke to my soul.
I see a future TikTok coming on.
Yes. I want to hear you yell in Shakespeare language.
Yeah, please.
Ooh,
You can do up to 10 minutes now. You know.
You're just gonna listen to a 10-minute video of me yelling in Shakespearean. Nobody wants that, okay? That's funny though. Okay, so
so
like a side
when
note.
I was in high school, we had to do something similar with Hamlet, where we had to act it out, but like a certain act, but we had to do it in a different like genre. Everyone had to do a different genre. Have you seen those before? So ours was like we did like a gangster genre, so we had all these like gold chains on and everything.
I love it.
I actually put that in her dreams. I had them do that because, you know, write what you know.
Exactly.
Authentic high school experience.
Exactly. It was, I don't know if they do it anymore, but
I know we've done that too. We've done, I think it was actually with Hamlet, or no, it was with Macbeth, where we had to do something similar. And I'm almost positive that I put that into one of my contemporaries.
Oh, funny. Oh,
That's funny.
I'm like, okay, yeah. That's, yeah. I mean, yeah, we write what we know. But also it's like fun stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it works.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about our least favorite classics. You have one of those that just comes to mind?
I'm trying to think, because I would have had to have been forced to read it, because I am a mood reader, and I would have read like a chapter and stopped. Which, sorry to Joanna, is what I did when I tried Dickens. I don't know which one it was.
I love Dickens.
I know you love. We've had this before. Loves Dickens, and I was like, wah. And again, to be fair, I was 10. Maybe I wasn't ready for Dickens.
I also took a Dickens course that I loved.
Of course.
That was all we read that whole semester was Dickens.
See, Joanna's like classic literacy is at least 10 times mine. Once again.
I think that's okay though.
I will say that there are classics that I thought I was super liked, and then I reread them and I didn't like them as much. Or they were and contained many things I forgot they contained. Ever start reading kids' classics aloud to your children? You're gonna learn a lot about what was in them. The Secret Garden.
Give us an example.
The Secret Garden was super hard. To start with, starts off with everyone being murdered, pretty much. Or they die. No, they get, I can't remember what it is, because it's different than the movie. Anyway, they all die. And she, like, gets drunk for, like, 3 days, because she could only find wine to drink, and it's, like, a whole thing. And then it's just, like, so colonial, right? Which is, like, true to the characters, but it meant I had to continually stop and explain things to the children all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes I would just skip it, because I'm like, it's too hard. And then the entire book, all the dialogue of the people that like work at the house is all the like Yorkshire English, but like written out. So if you can't do a full accent,
it's hard to understand what they're saying.
Terrible.
It's like reading
My kids
Mark
were
Twain.
very forgiving. I know. I was like, sorry guys, I'm gonna like just power through. We'll see what happens. It was really tricky. So now A Little Princess was my favorite classic as a kid, or like one of them. And now I'm like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if we can handle another read aloud of Frances Hodgson Burns. It's tricky.
That's actually a really good point, because I feel like that is why I have not made it through as many English translations of classics, because I get to those like accents or something, like Mark Twain, like, or they say stuff and I'm like, what? This is like another completely different language. I don't have time to learn.
Pretty much. You're like, I'm
we're
gonna
not
sound
doing
this out and see if I can figure out what word it's supposed to be.
Maybe an audiobook will help
There
with
you
that
go.
at least somewhat, because then I'm
Yes.
listening and not have to like look at it. My brain will just process without processing, if that makes
I
sense.
think an audiobook of this would be much better.
Yeah. That's funny. Anyway, Joanna, did you come up with a least favorite classic?
Probably 1984, to be honest. We already talked about that was actually a question I was having a hard time coming up with, because I'm like, I have so many favorites.
Because you
Like,
love them.
mhm.
Yeah.
You know, I love Dickens. I went through
Mhm.
and you say it's not classic because it's not 100 years old, but John Steinbeck. I went through a huge John
Okay.
Steinbeck where I read like all of his books, and I know that they're dark and everything, but I love them anyway. So yeah, 1984.
Okay. I mean, I guess.
just unenjoyable time.
Yeah, that's true. I can't think of anything I would like really qualify as my least favorite. I think it's just there's just a lot I haven't made myself go through in English yet.
Yes.
I can't like, like I have tried reading Leo Tolstoy in English, and I will tell you that that's a chore. I'd rather read it in Russian. Like, so probably his books would be my least favorite right now, because there's just
They are
a
they
lot of
are
work.
they are a lot of work.
And reading
yeah,
the
and, like,
translation, if you understand the original, seems
Yeah.
less enjoyable.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's like the problem that I had with that is like with his books, I've tried like 3 and I'm like, nah, it's not the same.
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess that would be my answer. I didn't really think
Maybe
about
that's why it was
this one
hard to
either.
read those in school.
Yeah, a lot of people
I
I
remember
do
struggling with
I do
those.
hate Yeah, I do hate that about reading classics in school, because it's like a chore and it's an assignment. And I feel like it turns so many kids away from like actually discovering a classic that they would like, or like getting into reading something outside of the genre, because it's like, this is, read Leo Tolstoy, War and Peace. Here's, 5,000 page book of just depression. Enjoy. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like maybe pick better classics. I don't know. I just feel like that I hated that about, because I love to read, and I hated how people in my class were like, "Oh, we have to do this." And I'm like, "But you get to do this." I don't understand. But it's just because they had like such a bad experience with like the worst types of books. Anyway,
No,
that's
we
my
read a
whole
lot of
rant. I'm
depressing
done now.
books.
Well, and it's kind of like,
Yeah.
well,
I know they're supposed
Like
to teach us things,
Heart
but
of
like
Darkness
what?
and The Scarlet Letter, and
Yeah.
like they're the Lord of the Flies. They're all things that were supposed to teach us a
yeah.
lesson, but they were all awful and depressing.
Be like, here's something to teach you. Depression in your early
the
stages
world
of
is
life.
terrible.
Enjoy.
Well, see, and it's like
yeah.
the same as like as an adult, I don't read literary fiction. Like, I
Yeah.
cannot be bothered. I enjoy genre fiction. And if
Same.
you, so like just saying something is a classic, like a lot of them I feel like are classics and they're kind of literary fiction, like, yeah,
Yeah, I
they're
can
not
see that.
necessarily happy. They don't have like the whimsy and like, this is why I read so many kids classics.
Yeah.
I have read way more kids classics than adult classics and I still prefer most of them. I would rather read The Wizard of Oz than, yeah, most things.
Yeah. Yeah, I do love that though too about reading, is that there are people who are just like only read classics
Oh, yeah.
and like literary fiction and all that stuff, and it's like their jam. And like,
Mhm.
yeah, then read
Yeah.
it. Like, I have absolutely nothing against those genres. It's just not my thing, And the fact that there's people who enjoy that, I love that for them. More power to you, Like, we don't shame people for what they read around
No
here.
way, yeah.
It's just our own experiences and how we feel about things. And I think more people would love more genres if they were presented better in school. Like, for example, if young adult fiction wasn't like, oh, this is for kids, and literary fiction is the only serious fiction. Like, if that wasn't presented like that, which is how it was presented for me, then I think there would have been a different idea about books coming into
I think
them.
that's why I stuck with the classics for so long too. That I
Right,
thought young
yeah.
Because it was
I
like
thought young
morally
adult-
better.
Well, I just thought young adult
Yeah,
was for
kinda.
kids. And then I read Twilight.
And you're like, wait a minute.
Wait a minute, this is fun.
But the young adult changed with Twilight too. Like, it's a whole thing.
It did.
I was gonna say, I read like we didn't read a ton of classics in school. We did Shakespeare, and like I remember reading stuff that was like we read a few dystopian weird things. We read a few, like, it was obviously books they thought would be like good for us to read, but they weren't necessarily classics. Like, I don't know if it was a Canada thing or just like where I was, but I always hear about people like, oh, of course we read Catcher in the Rye, and of course we read like all this stuff. I'm like, nope. We did not. We read none of those stuff. I could tell you some of them, but they're weird.
I forgot
like weird
about Catcher
fantasy
in the
books
Rye.
and stuff.
I read that one on my own.
That's funny. I love Catcher in the Rye
too.
I know
I still haven't read it because it wasn't required reading.
I love the whole thing that it's like snipers that's like their favorite book, and I'm like, all right, I guess that's what I'm destined to become eventually.
You just need to write some snipers. You do it really
There
authentically.
you go.
They're thrillers.
But it's not. It even has nothing to do with snipers. It's just apparently like they did a study that's what like serial killers and snipers enjoy. I don't know. It was like a weird thing, and then they used it in a movie too with like. Was it Mel Gibson or Bruce Willis? Something like that. There was like a movie, and he literally collects all the Catcher in the Rye books so that other snipers
would be like,
be able
yes.
to get to them. Like it's weird. But anyway, that's really funny. I remember in 11th grade, we were reading a lot of classics, and I mean, I was still enjoying myself, but I felt like the books that they were picking were a little bit more repetitive from 10th grade to 11th grade.
Like you had to read the same ones that you had already read. That's
like,
weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like they were like, because the first time we read it, we just had to do like a report on it. But the second time we read it, we had to do like a breakdown of, scene by scene or something, like a study or whatever. I don't know. It was weird. But I remember like some of the books repeating, and I'm like, well, this is kind of odd, but whatever. American schools. But anyway, but in 11th grade, I had a teacher who had this like kind of like a book cart, but it was like a metal shelf that he kept by his door, and it had like all the Goosebumps, all the Christopher Pike, all the, like, what is the Diana something, like the Fear Street and the Cheerleaders and all of those like tiny little paperbacks. Mm-hmm. I started reading those. He's like, yeah, you can take them home. And I'm like, oh, okay. Remember Me is like, for me, Remember Me by Christopher Pike is one of my classics because it's one of those books that I like devoured, and I'm like, this is young adult fiction. This is what, like, Christopher Pike did young adult before young adult was a thing. So he got to do whatever he wanted because there wasn't really a genre for it. And I remember reading that, and I was like, I want to write this. This is like my thing. And then when I was in college, there was a $5 bin in Walmart, and there was an Alison Noel first book in her vampire series. I picked it up and I was like, I'm going to take it. That was my introduction to the current young adult market. And that's when I was like, I want to read this. I want to write this. This is like my storytelling. And so in my mind, I'm like, those are my two classics, Alison Noel and Christie.
Your personal classics.
Awesome. I love that.
I couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, my watch is talking to me. I'm sorry. If anybody heard that, that was my watch apparently saying sorry. They couldn't understand what I was saying, but it's fine. You guys get it.
We understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So I don't know. Sorry for like the random tangent, but it made me think as we were talking about school. I was like, oh yeah, because I have like Christopher Pike books back here. I don't know if you guys can see them. And then what was the other thing that I read a lot of? Oh, L.J. Smith. Didn't read the Vampire Diaries, but I read her Forbidden Game and the Night World series, and I don't remember. It was just teens with superpowers, and it was like my favorite.
I read the Vampire Diaries before
right.
the series came out.
Before they were cool.
Before the
You're a Vampire Diaries hipster.
Yep. Before the TV show started. No, I think that everyone's school experience is just different. While you guys were all learning grammar, I was reading classics because that was something I did never learn in school.
No, we didn't learn grammar either.
I was very spotty on that as well.
Okay, I'm not alone.
I don't know what
I'm
we'll
not
do.
I know.
alone.
I feel like
No.
once I started writing books, I was like, wow, how does
Yeah.
punctuation work? What is grammar?
I think I learned more grammar from my like editors
Yeah,
than
me
anybody
too.
else.
Well,
Yes.
editors and reading and
Yeah. But I know that like for at least for me where I live in Arizona, a lot of the grammar was like done by the time middle school came around. Like they did it in middle school, but elementary school is basically where you learn grammar, right? And I missed all of that. I wasn't here until after that. So like I missed out on that and I had to teach myself, which is not easy.
No.
And then when I was in college, I took some, because I was, my first bachelor's in secondary education. So I took actually some like elementary classes and we did grammar there, how to teach grammar to kids.
And you're like, oh, this is
like,
how it
this
works.
is how-
Yeah, that was like my only
I should have taken
introduction.
that
I was
class.
like, okay. It made sense because, you know, they're trying to explain it to 7-year-olds. I'm like, I get it. Yeah.
I just had to fake that I knew it because I didn't
Yeah.
want, you know, when I was in school, I didn't want to ever say, hey, when can we do grammar? Like that was not
Right,
something I was going to
right.
bring up. And then when I was in college and everyone I knew it, I would feel dumb if I was like,
Did they
what?
know it, though?
I don't know. But like,
They all
I even was like,
pretended.
what's an adjective? Like, I didn't even know like those types.
Mhm.
Okay, I think I did know that stuff. It's
No,
mostly
I- no.
punctuation. And I'm still, like, commas are a
Oh,
mystery to me to this day.
Same.
You guys, I honestly learned about commas and in dialogue on TikTok. There was a girl that did a video and I was like, oh, that makes sense.
I finally get it.
I was like, what? Because, you know, like I always put a comma after like, you know, go over here, and then I put a comma and it's like he said, right? Like
Yeah.
that's correct. But then I would also be go over here, he shrugged. I would put a comma there. But I'm like, but it's not. It's a period.
Right, because it's a
And
different
now I
sentence.
know
Yeah.
this. I know my editor is going to be very happy that I finally have learned distinction after how many books that she edited for me. She always changes it and I can never understand why. And I like should have just asked, but I didn't because I want to be smart and pretend like I know everything. And now I actually do know that part. So there is that.
Some of it still just doesn't sink in when it's explained to me. I like when
That's
I
true.
wrote my first book, I hardly used commas at all. I was like, I'm sure I overuse commas, so unless I'm like 100% sure there should be a comma, I'm just not putting one in. And then my editor was like, so we're gonna put a lot of commas in because you like actually need them in your book. Like, oh yeah, this is not stuff I paid attention to. I think I'm getting slightly better, but when my editors go through my books, I just accept like every recommendation on commas. And if someone later on tries to tell me it's wrong, I'm like, take it up with my editor because I don't know. I just trust her. And I don't know if I trust you yet. So I have to
Yes.
keep going with what she says.
Oh, that's hilarious. But it does make me feel better about my own grammar. So thank
Me
you.
too.
welcome.
Me too. I thought I was alone.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's a good point to stop at. Put a little. We're just gonna put a period on
High note
that.
here, and not how we don't know how.
Yeah, we're gonna put a period on that and move on.
And shrug.
Okay,
Period,
perfect. Not a
shrug.
comma.
Yeah, shrug it off. It's
She
fine.
shrugged.
No, I love these kind of talks, so we'll do more of those. And if you guys want more of these, like weird, unscripted ramblings of our minds, we do have a Patreon. Woo! Where you get to know. I know. I don't know what to say. Okay, no. I'm excited. Okay, I am excited about the Patreon.
I am also excited.
I'm excited to have more time to spend with our listeners, to build a community, to get to know each other, to have a book club, to do special stuff together. So I will leave a link. Check it out, you guys. You can support us there and be part of this awesome conversation, community, all the fun stuff. Also, make sure to follow us on our Instagram at Reading Queens Pod. I'm so good at this, guys. Anyway, yeah, so be back next Wednesday for another episode. Before you go, please give us a follow on your favorite podcast platform and leave a star rating or a review. And then tell everybody to come listen to our podcast. You know, have like listening parties, get together and, you know, laugh with us.
Tell us what your favorite classic is.
Yeah, or least favorite.
Tell us if you know how to use commas.
Yes,
Are we alone?
please. Do you know grammar? Let us know. And that is all.
Please don't look too closely. Okay.
On that note, bye.
Said you wanted chaos, so.
You are so chaotic. I love it.